morning, Whale fam. How's everybody doing today? Welcome. It's awesome to see you all. I'm super excited because we have Anthony Sims here to talk with us today, A Sims Art. And thank you so much for joining us today, Anthony.
Yeah, what's up? I'm super happy to be here. Woke up, ready, get in it.
Awesome. So one of the things that we do in the whale community is go through like artist fireside chats, and I'm really excited to be talking with you today and kind of having you share your journey in art and kind of getting into the crypto space and maybe some of the projects or pieces that you've created. Kind of that'll be our path forward today as we're getting to know each other and promoting all of the awesomeness that you've done. And one of the things, I guess, to see, and maybe we can save this for a little bit, but your Twitter bio actually notes that you are the youngest artist to be added to a museum's permanent collection. So that's like crazy awesome. Congratulations to
Thank
that.
you.
Like, oh my God, what a claim to fame. So why don't, to start, you tell us how you got involved in kind of art in the crypto space? What has your journey been to get to this point?
So, whenever I was in high school, I graduated high school in 2017. And around my last semester in high school, I actually, so I was in like a gifted art program like the whole time in high school, but I never really took art seriously and I didn't care for it. I just did it because I was like okay at it, and I wanted to be like an engineer. But so my last semester in high school is actually the first time I ever saw a Basquiat piece, because I knew nothing about art. Like I just was not involved in art at all. And so in my last year in high school, I learned about Andy Warhol and Basquiat, which is crazy because they're like two of the biggest artists, right? But I started doing like little doodles, and I fell in love with what I was doing because I never knew you could do something like that. And it was really kind of inspired by Basquiat because it was just these raw, like crazy looking doodles. They didn't actually look like people, and it was sort of kind of what I do now, but worse. But so that was how I kind of got started. And then whenever I went to college, I was in college and I was doing doodles on the internet, and I was actually doing better than I was last year on Twitter. So Twitter I did okay, but my first year on Twitter, it was me drawing with a Sharpie on like little pieces of paper, and then I would take a picture of it and then I would edit it, and it would kind of look like I did it digitally. But like at the time, like I didn't have an iPad, I didn't have a laptop or anything like that, so like I couldn't really make digital art. So I was just doing it with a Sharpie and then kind of doing that. And then my friends encouraged me to start painting. So I started painting around the beginning of 2018, the end of 2017. And it's really cool because I've been documenting all of it. So like I remember actual time frames. But yeah, so then in 2018, I actually started going to Memphis because I lived in Mississippi. And so I was like 30 minutes from Memphis, Tennessee. And that's the closest city next to me. So I went there and then started getting involved in that community. And they treated me really well. Like they responded to me really well, or the majority of them did. And I started getting into, like street shows and gallery shows. And then I eventually moved to Dallas, which if we go here. So I did two things with a company called, or a magazine called Downtown 500. So this one from 2019 was actually, I pretty much lost everything I had worked for. So I was doing pretty decent. I had saved a couple $1,000, and then a lot of family issues happened. And anyways, like I was on the brink of like being like homeless and shit. So I had like $1,000 left, and messaged my girlfriend on a Thursday and was like, hey, like I'm going to New York. Like I don't really know what else to do. I don't really know if I'm gonna have a place to live like next week, but I'm just gonna drive to New York because fuck it. I don't know what's up there. I've never been there before. So she was like, okay, well, can you wait till tomorrow? Because, I'm driving to you now, because she lived in Dallas, right? So she drove 8 hours to me, and then we drove 16 hours to New York. And in New York, I actually met Diana Vashir, who is the owner of American Pop Art Incorporated, which owns the licensing to Steve Kaufman's work. And it's more of an art collective. And so I met her at a show, like within 30 minutes being there. And so she gave me the opportunity to actually be inducted into Steve Kaufman's collection. And if you don't know who Steve Kaufman is, he was one of the original people to work for and with Andy Warhol in the factory in the early 1980s. And then he went on to more so like be a very successful artist in Europe. So like he's not really known that well in America, but he pretty much did. He kind of expanded and built on what Warhol did, and was probably one of the greatest neo-pop artists of like the contemporary era. But yeah, anyways, I got added to his collective, and I was like, freaking out, even though that was like a couple months later. But that was a huge deal. Anyways, when I came back from New York, I ended up moving out to Dallas, and I got a job out here. I still have that same job, actually. I'm a robotics technician, so I work on robots. So the dream to be an engineer never really died. It's still very prevalent. I just happen to also really enjoy art. But last year, there's a bunch of shit going on. Couldn't really do anything, so I just was like, okay, I'm gonna email museums. I'm gonna get into a museum. And so I sent about 500 emails within a matter of like 3 months to museums all around the country, and some not in the country. And so once, like, the Meridian Museum, the museum I'm actually in, they told me no twice, and I didn't realize that I had asked them 3 times. So like, because when you send that many fucking emails, it's just like you're just going and you're not really paying attention. So I ended up sending some to the same museums. And about a week before the third email, they had actually just gotten approved to expand their permanent collection. And so it was like divine timing, did it. And then they were like, yeah. And I drove down to Meridian, Mississippi, which was probably about nine hours away from Dallas. And there, I met with Kate Cherry. She's the executive director of the museum, and gave her 2 pieces, which sadly the piece that I took a picture with was like the least cool piece. But yeah, I put 2 pieces in there. This piece, I still think that piece is really dope, but that one, let's see. So I have this, which this is like a side project. So like, oh fuck, I took it off this, actually, never mind. I don't actually know if I have a picture of the other piece. Well, I know I have pictures of them. I just don't know if I can show you, if that makes sense. But yeah, so then I wrote my second letter to Downtown 500, and okay, so to kind of give context to what Downtown 500 is, I think all collectors and anyone interested in like real digital world type stuff with artists should check out Downtown 500. So in 2017, there was a small community of painters on Twitter, and that community was pretty much brought together by Downtown 500. Like, we all knew each other, and we were in like group chats and things like that. Like, there was a legitimate community of about 20 to 25 artists, and Downtown 500 saw that opportunity and created a brand around it. So anybody looking to invest in crypto artists, these are the people that have been on Twitter doing the Twitter thing, and digital art thing and fine art thing, all simultaneously is these artists on here. But yeah, so I pretty much wrote to them about how last year around the same time, I was homeless with like $1,000, which is probably, the equivalent of like $100, 20 years ago, because you can't do a lot with that, especially in New York. But anyways, so, I went from doing that and doing a couple gallery shows to being in magazines pretty much around the entire world, being in a legendary artist collective, being in a museum's permanent collection, and then, on the brink of starting my own kind of collection and collective, which is something I'm still doing. I also, in November of 2019, worked with a producer in LA named Nug Life, and I got to do cover artwork for like Issa Gold and like Young Simi, which are two pretty big artists that I look up to. But yeah, so then the digital space, like how did I get involved in the digital space? Because I knew really nothing about digital art since 2017. So I didn't really know there was any involvement into the crypto space until like last summer. And last summer is when I submitted last fall is when I submitted my super rare application. And so that was really, really cool to get accepted into that. But anyways, so the artists that put me on to this would have been Jonathan Wolfe and Fimzor. If y'all obviously I know y'all know those people, so I'm not gonna say if y'all know them because they're fucking huge in the space. But so those people were the people that I was pretty cool with, that I saw doing it, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't know that was an option. So I've been really into crypto for a while, so probably since 10th grade, but I pulled out of it in probably 11th grade. So I made $50 off of Bitcoin. I bought in at 300 and sold it for 350. And I thought I was on top of the world then. So no regrets. I felt like a champ. But yeah, anyways, so I was looking around the crypto space. Obviously Super Rare was one of my top picks, and then Nifty Gateway and things like that. And so I reached out to Super Rare, got an email from them. But anyways, I waited about 3 months. So for any artist that's messaging other artists on how to get into Super Rare, they're, in my opinion, victims of their own success right now. So their little form, and this might be critical of them, but their Google form sucks. So they need to fix that if they actually want to take in a lot more artists. But they're still one of the greatest platforms to be on. Yeah, so then I had some digital art that I had created, and that's what I used for my application. And then when I actually got accepted, I was tasked with making more of it, right? So I had to figure out what I wanted to make. So to any artists that are really getting into the crypto space, what I see that is typically success in the crypto space. So successful artists, typically their first 6 or 9 pieces are very kind of like this. They're very cohesive. You can tell one person did them all. That's what I would recommend, just so people know you and get your name out. I don't know my password, yo. Rip the dream. But yeah, so people can get familiar with you. Keep consistency with your first pieces. Now, I'm gonna sound like a total hypocrite because my pieces aren't really that consistent. They're kind of all over the place. But I'm speaking from experience, I guess. Don't do this when you start. Don't do like this. This is tacky, in my opinion. I mean, obviously it'll still work, but it just looks cooler if you don't do that. So doing consistent stuff is what I've learned. I think these kind of top 3 are what I've landed on whenever it comes to digital style, because I was trying a bunch of shit. So I was animating paintings and things like that. I've also realized that most collectors typically like digital artwork rather than NFTs with physical pieces attached. Now, obviously, collectors like both, but from my personal experience, they like non whatever it's called, physical word. Yeah, so that's kind of like the short version of how I got to here. And I know that was kind of long, and I digressed a bunch of times, but that's how I ended up in this position.
Like, this is, because you've been at this probably four years at this point, right?
Right around that point.
Thereabouts. And like, that's an amazing adventure to have in 4 years. It really shows off, I think, the benefits of not only, patience, but also persistence. In fact, you sent out, like 500 emails to these different museums to get yourself, in. And, as you mentioned, there's kind of that, the divine timing. I think like that really struck me, because that's the thing, right? Like you have patience and you have persistence, and then there's just a bit of luck, but you don't get the luck unless you're making the effort.
Yeah. Luck's that's actually kind of the premise of my last NFT. To be honest with you, it's called Lonely, and it is kind of, that one was about like going to a big city for the first time and like living there. Because going to a big city for the first time is totally different than going to a big city for the first time and living there. But I talked about the farmer. So I learned this in church. I'm not really religious now, but I learned this in church, and it was, like 2 farmers prayed for rain, and one went out, broke his land up, and planted seeds. And whenever it came time to rain, it only actually rained on the prepared farmer's land. And so that was kind of something that that's stuck with me ever since I was a little kid. And I always knew, like the opportunities come every day, right? Like there's so many opportunities. You just have to be ready to accept them. You have to be prepared. You can't wait for a boat to come save you if you're not like swimming to shore. Like, are you going to swim to shore, or are you just going to sit there and wait for a boat to save you? Because the chances of a boat finding you are way more likely if you're actually going in a direction. And so that was kind of something that I believed in from the very, very beginning of my art, was just patience and persistence. I actually have these two pieces. These two pieces are some of my favorite like art pieces, which is kind of annoying because no one else likes them that much. But or I say that, but no one's bought them, so that's why I say that. So this guy right here, his name's Last Left, but like his whole thing, I made him in a collection of like 3 in 2019. Okay, and I made these all in like my mom's garage, and I was having a lot of fun with them. But down here in the bottom corner, I wrote, "You may be right now, but I'll be last left." So I kind of realized from an early point in the game that being a successful artist was legitimately just about longevity. Like longevity is the core foundation of any art. And if I want someone to actually buy this for $10,000, like that's a crazy amount of money. So if I want someone to actually buy that, there has to be a purpose. They can't just be like, oh, I like it because it's pretty. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure there are people like that. And those people are fucking fantastic. But most people want to know if they're going to spend that much money on a piece that there is some longevity to it. So like they can resell it or retain the value of what they put into it. And so that is something that I've really been driven to do for my collectors in the past, because I've had some amazing collectors that have really like helped me in the past, like buying a painting whenever I had nothing is a huge deal. And so I want to be able to provide the most value for those people. And so with this one, this was my favorite painting for like a really long time. And then at the beginning of 2020, I couldn't make anything that I actually liked. I was making a bunch of paintings, but none of them I actually liked. And so I was like, okay, well, why don't I just create this one? Why don't I just do this one again? I'll just make this one because it's my favorite one. So that's when I did this one. So this one is still here. Same principle as the first one. Except now I've started a collection of these pieces, and I'm only doing one a year of these pieces. I call it the self-development collection. So it's kind of done to track my progress and stuff. And I'm thinking this year this will actually be an NFT, like a completely digital file instead of like a painting. I'll probably stick with paintings in the future, although I believe that by the end of this year, all my artwork will have an NFT associated with it, purely because I don't also see the value of NFTs as a digital contract. I see the value of an NFT like a card title or a certificate of authenticity. Like there's so much you could do with it. And so that's kind of, it's literally just proving that you own the original. And so all my artwork will have that. Now, explaining to some collectors why they have to download MetaMask on their phone is probably going to be a pain, but I think they'll get the point once I kind of break it down. I've been explaining to a lot of people how this stuff works, and it's really fun, but it's really annoying when I go on the Clubhouse and there's other people doing it, and like they don't know what MetaMask is. And it's like, why are y'all taking advice from this guy? Like, I know he has a lot of followers, but he has no idea what he's talking about. But I think that's funny.
And that definitely, I think, really rings true to a lot of what we're doing here in the whale community, is trying to be that, space or that movement for the positive learning and getting people to understand, the inner workings of the space and the basics and those foundational, aspects like getting MetaMask. Because, just because you have a big following doesn't necessarily mean you're giving good advice.
Yeah.
And that's, kind of follows the crypto, like, do your own research, that we see a lot in the chat. And that's absolutely, a struggle. So it's awesome that you're kind of out there fighting the good fight and raising awareness.
Yeah. So I actually had a conversation with my friend Peter yesterday, which is like as much as I want to talk about it on here, like I probably should wait because it's super exciting. So this is like my first crypto project with Peter, that has nothing to do with my artwork, and so that's something I'm really excited about.
Ooh, so we have a sneak peek hint of something you're doing in the future that we should keep an eye out, and probably your social media would be the best place to follow along, or what do you think?
I don't know if I'm going to actually publicly be a part of it. Now, if you go to the wallet address of what I will be a part of, it won't be hard to find it because I'm like the creator of some of the names and shit. So I'm attached to it, but very indirectly. So I probably won't like publicly say I'm a part of it. But it does involve birds.
Okay. So we'll keep an eye out for anything bird related that is somehow related to you. Be very cryptic about it, but it'd be a treasure hunt.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. I think there's a huge potential upside to that. And I was also talking to him about something that I feel totally comfortable sharing with y'all, because I want somebody to do this and I don't really want to do it. So I think it's a great idea. So I know a lot of people have thought about it, but like a meme museum, like there's like, I've been wondering probably since 2015 how we were going to historically document memes, because that's a huge part of the culture that the internet created. And so I'm just wondering who's going to start the first, top shot of memes, who's going to start the first meme platform that is purely based around like legendary memes that we all know and recognize, like Harambe or Pepe, things like that. Like, because I'm seeing people do a lot of meme crypto, but like I'm trying to figure out how that's still going to be documented. And I think NFTs is a perfect space to start documenting that.
Having a vault of all the meme NFTs and the homage to some of that like early 2000s internet.
Yeah, like who is going to own the troll character, right? Like who's going to own like those meme characters from like iFunny, you know? Which I don't know the copyright on all that stuff, but I mean, it's not like most crypto artists are following copyright laws anyways.
Right. That is definitely a a thing that I think we'll see more action on in the space coming up, trying to navigate that.
It's kind of scary, but like, because I recently did like a pop art drop where I used 3 well-known pop art brand logos, but like I changed them so they're not like those logos, but like they're totally those logos. You know what I'm saying? But like
I see a Fago logo in one of your arts you were scrolling through.
Yeah. So that one actually technically wasn't one of the ones I was talking about, but yeah. So like that one does have Fago in it. So, but I changed it.
That stuck out to me because I'm from Michigan, and that's like a big thing here.
Yeah, Fago's. I really enjoy Fago. Foundation is the place with the copy art. These guys. But I changed this up here, and I gave her like tits, I guess. Then this has up here like the hair. I took this off. I changed all the colors, so none of the colors are the actual same colors that their brand uses. And then I changed this around, and then got rid of pretty much his whole face. So very curious to see how this goes.
Interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. So that's a fun twist on some very popular iconography.
Yeah, no, those guys are like the only ones I could find. I think Chick-fil-A, they have that little chicken, but incorporating face into that was a little difficult. These are like the biggest 3 that I can incorporate face with. Or I guess actually I could take Ronald McDonald and use his face. Never mind. I just figured out a bunch of stuff I could do. Thinking about logos, but like there's also like iconic characters that I could imitate with them.
This is fun, and I think that kind of maybe gets along with one of the questions that people asked early on, because they were asking what you do in your experience in creative block. But it seems like you're even during the conversation here doing a lot of active brainstorming, and maybe you were stuck on not thinking of other logos before, and then suddenly you're doing something else, and it seems to kind of pop back to mind.
Yeah, so I can't really see anything that's going on in StreamYard because I only have one screen. So
that's okay. I'll relay them to
you. But creative block. So I do have creative block every now and then. But one of the biggest things. So the two kind of philosopher people, or philosophies, I guess, that I kind of roll with, is it's the technical name, the actual name is Taoism, but it's often referred to as Taoism. And then I'm a fan of Friedrich Nietzsche, which I kind of have to be careful saying that because like some really bad people in history were also friends of Friedrich Nietzsche, or fans, not friends. But like they took him out of context. So like the Übermensch has been taken out of context since its pretty much beginning. But the Übermensch is supposed to be like the superior human being, right? And so one of the people that took it out of context was Hitler. He took it in a very, very dark turn. But the premise of it was like the original core foundation of what the Übermensch was supposed to be was literally just the best person you can be. Like literally just be the greatest version of yourself possible, and then you are an Übermensch. That was the whole point. Be the greatest individual and do that. And so that's one of the biggest things I took away from him. But Taoism is pretty much about like going with the Tao, going with the flow. And so the best way I know how to explain Taoism to more Western society is like a freestyle. So like there's something called Wu Wei, and Wu Wei is pretty much the art of doing nothing. And that's where a lot of my art comes from. Is I get out of my own way and just create. So like I turn on music, or if there's anything on like a screen, like I listen to it. I absorb whatever's going on around me, and I think about like my day and stuff. But while all of that's happening, I'm just making stuff. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. So like whenever I was doing this in the very beginning, like it wasn't that great. But you occasionally learn techniques and stuff. And so like the only time I really am paying attention to my painting is if I'm writing something on it, or if I'm like making sure the colors are balanced. But other than that, I just kind of let it all happen, which is a good and bad thing, because I've painted some really amazing stuff and then impulsively painted over it, and like lost a lot of really cool paintings that I've made that I'll probably never be able to recreate. But the end results are usually really, really nice. Digital art has actually helped me a fuck ton, because also, can I cuss? I'm sorry, I should have asked that before we live.
That is absolutely fine. This is you expressing yourself, so carry on.
So one of the biggest problems I was having, because I was experiencing kind of a lot of success in the fine art world, like last year and kind of the end of 2019. The success factor increased. I actually was supposed to do like 7 or 8 shows last year, and like 5 or 6 cities, but that didn't happen, sadly. But it is what it is. And yeah, so I was doing that, but one of the biggest problems I was having digitally was like I know I'm gonna sound super arrogant saying this, but my paintings are like really, really great. Okay, and I don't mean to sound arrogant when I say this, because I'm shocked when I look at my artwork. Like my friend Peter has one of my paintings, and I walked into his house and I was like, holy crap! Like I don't remember making this. Like I'm surprised this came from me, right? Like I know it sounds arrogant, but it's actually really humble, because I would like to take credit.
It's good to have that awe and wonder in things that you're creating. Like that's amazing that you feel that way.
Yeah, and the problem with that though is that doesn't translate well two-dimensionally digitally. Like so like I have this one painting that I really love. It's my favorite painting, but it doesn't like generate enough like credit, I guess, on the internet, because you can't see how amazing the painting is through a picture. Like it's something you have to like be in front of and experience. And so digital art is actually helping me get around that and actually create artwork that is visually pleasing for, like looking at on a cell phone or a laptop screen. So that's one thing I'm really happy about digital art. And I've met a lot of really great artists too. So that's really crazy to me. And honestly, one of the coolest things about this whole digital art community is the fact that it's provided me with enough money that I can go buy art that I actually really like and believe in. So one of my close friends, Jazz, he has amazing pieces, right? But I would have never been able to afford one of his pieces until like this year. So I think that's really, really nice. There was somebody that was talking about this on Twitter. I'd love to give them the credit, but I don't remember who it was. I think it was Loopify or NFT Freaks. It was one of them. And they were talking about how the aftermarket of collectors buying from artists and then artists buying from other artists that aren't in the collector's eyes yet was actually one of the big fundamental things for the longevity of the NFT community. So I thought that was interesting. I didn't fully understand it, but I thought it was really interesting.
And I really like how you've touched on the importance of community. And both, as you're starting out and getting involved with the Downtown 500, and like that really hit home because, related to the whale space, like this is a community where people find success by supporting each other. And, that's definitely, from what you've explained, very similar to your experiences finding these art communities and on Twitter, and then being able to support your fellow artists. Like, that's an awesome motivation, having it so that way you're helping others and kind of everybody gets to make progress.
Yeah. One of the things that I kind of took away from the Downtown 500 is because we're all like artists, and although we help each other. So there's a guy named Adam. I don't want to mispronounce his last name, but I'm pretty sure it's Adam Zaffron. But like he runs something called Artist Sourced, and he was one of those Downtown 500 artists. I don't remember exactly when like me and him actually got to know each other. But like he built a whole print platform for artists. So there's a lot of interesting stuff from that community that has built up around that community. But one of the things like when you're younger and you see a bunch of artists also succeeding, you feel like they're your competition. So like everyone in Downtown 500, I kind of felt like I was competing with for a really long time. And although that can be deemed as unhealthy, I think it's really, really healthy. So it's like this community of artists that are being successful. Like if we were all kind of, or not all of us, there were some of us that were competing with each other on these platforms, and all that was doing was benefiting us. So even though like there may have been like drama here or drama there, like there is in most communities, like if one artist succeeded, all that did was drive the rest of them to do something, equal or better. And so one of the coolest things I think about like artist communities is because even with the ego attached, there's still movement and there's still growth throughout the entire community, because it's like, we all want to be the best. We all want to be the greatest artists to ever exist. Like that is one of the core foundations of the narcissism found in most artists. Now, I'm not saying artists are narcissists. I'm just saying there's a legitimate fundamental part of being an artist that is narcissistic.
And that, I feel like, is necessary though, isn't it? Because you're putting parts of yourself out into the world as your creation, and you're promoting that. So I don't know that you could do that without some flavor of narcissism,
Yeah, it's just gotta be healthy,
Balance is important.
You can't get on Twitter and be mean to people. You gotta be nice to people. Like you gotta be a fundamentally good person if you want to be successful in any space whatsoever. But also being your biggest fan, being your owner, your coach, your fan, and the player, that's very necessary.
That is like that. I don't have any words really. I mean, that's super true and something that is really important for people to understand. I think, just the importance of being a good human.
Yeah, it's really, and being a good human. Now this might get like topical, but being a good human doesn't necessarily mean you're going with all the trends of what being a good human is. Being a good human to me is literally just doing the purest action you can at the time. So like if you do something that you believe is the right and true thing to do, and then 2 years later you find out that like, oh, like that was actually bad, like I shouldn't have done that, like it is what it is. Like you learned from that mistake you previously made, but you can't change it. And then on top of that, like you didn't do it with any horrific intentions behind it anyways. So as long as you learn from things, like you don't have to be the greatest human, you just have to be, developing and actually getting better at being nice. Right? I don't really want to say nice, but truthful, I think would be the better word than nice.
I think that's a very good point, and it actually ties into a question that was just posted in the chat. because they were asking what some of the best advices that you've received about the business side of things. So,
Um,
in addition to what you've just shared, because I think it is relevant.
okay. So, probably the greatest advice I got when it came to the like. Okay, so I'll do two types of business advice. So one with newfound money, and the other one just like actually selling artwork. So the newfound money actually came from a guy named Mod Sun. So I've been a fan of Mod Sun since like 2017, 2016. Like he was a huge influence in my life. And I've went to like a couple of his concerts, and I've met him. And anyway, I DM'd him on Twitter because like we've I don't want to like come off as me like saying that like I'm his friend because we can talk to each other, because we don't know each other, but like we know each other enough that we can actually talk, but it's not like we're friends, if that makes any sense. Like I look up to him and I respect him in every way, but we're not technically friends. I'm not that cool. But like, yeah, so anyways, I messaged him and I was like, hey, like, I've like, what do you do when you make like a lot of money at one time? What do you do with that? And it's pretty much his advice whenever it comes to like the actual success of it was just continue to invest in your art. And this was one of the things that kind of stuck with me, was this next part, which was but don't spend money out of fear. So that was a weird association to fear. So most of the time, you don't associate spending money with fear. I'm still kind of trying to learn what he meant by that, but I'm sure I will eventually learn what he meant by that. But that was something that kind of stuck with me, and I don't know if that resonates with anyone else, but just being confident in your decisions and being patient and persistent, and realizing that's your catalyst to make more and more, and really do what you need to do as an artist. As far as business goes, for selling art, you have to have an investing principle. Like, you have to have something that makes someone see you as an investment. So big collectors, collectors, like big guys, they don't really care. So they care about clout. So if you have a lot of followers, that's typically a good indicator that you're a good investment. But like, I mean, I have more followers than a lot of people, but I don't have many at all, if that makes sense. I have like 3,000 something. And so that's one indicator of like doing that. But don't chase clout. I think the better option and the better route to go is actually just having reasons for them to invest in you. So, if I have an art show and a collector's coming up to me and he's like, hey, I really like this piece. Why is it $10,000? Why is it $5,000? I get to be like, okay, well, first off, like, here, let me pull out Google, like, we'll just do this. Who is the youngest artist in a museum's permanent collection? So like, we pull out Google, we can do this, boom, bam, it's your boy, like, and then if I tell them to like Google me, they can type this in, this pops up, it's cool. I look, super official. This is purely based around SEO though. So this is something that you have to put in a lot of work to do and curate. But basically, just my point in saying all this is, you need investability purposes. Like, you need collectors to want to understand that you will retain value. So most of the more professional collectors in the crypto space are interested in buying NFTs because it's a store of value, and that's where they're saving their money there. And so if you have no upside, or at least not going to be stable, then they're less than likely to invest in you. And then another thing, don't DM anybody with a link. Like just don't do that. That's really, really annoying. And like I've done it before. I haven't done it in a really long time, but like I did it whenever I was first starting out. But yeah, it gets really annoying because think about it. Like you're the collector. You're on Twitter, and then you just get a DM from somebody you don't follow, and they're like, "Hey, buy my art." Like, "Hey, like you're a collector, buy my art." Like yeah, but no. The best way is to interact with collectors on your timeline. And if they DM you, fantastic, great. But like if they want to buy something, they'll see it, or they'll let you know. The only thing your job is to do is to get in front of them, so that if they see your work, they're like, okay, yeah, I want to buy this. It's not to tell them to buy it. They have to make that decision, because if you're telling them or you're asking them, it really seems disingenuous, and don't hit them with a link on the timeline either. Like if you see a big collector and they're talking about something that you actually share an interest in, then approach them and talk to them about what you're sharing an interest in. And that's going to make them go to your profile. And if they want to collect your artwork, they will. So that's kind of my best advice on selling stuff, is to not be annoying to people. Also, sending NFTs, free NFTs to like bigger artists and stuff, like go hard and do that. But I don't think it's that great of an idea. So like I've done it. So like I've sent something to Beeple. So Beeple has one of my pieces, but like I just did that purely because I was gonna like burn the token anyway. And so I was like, okay, well, I figure, if anyone's gonna have this, I'm just gonna give it to, one of the dopest artists ever, because fuck it, right? But like the biggest thing about it is don't be annoying, or scratch that. You can be slightly annoying. You can be persistent, but don't be annoying in like they're gonna block you. Like don't be blockable. Just be persistent. But take that advice loosely, I guess. There's a very, very like thin line between what I just said. So I would just say don't do either. But
sounds like there's a good balance there between remaining confident and not desperate.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. It's a way better way to put it.
It's definitely a big thing, because if you're out there and you're sharing interests and you're making those more genuine connections, I think that will have better longevity than simply sending a link that may or may not get checked. That it garners interest in you, not just as an artist, but as a person. And something that at least I've seen a lot in the space is people are investing not just in artists or projects, but they're investing in the people behind them, So
yeah, and that's one of the bigger things about just the community of, and this is kind of weird because this is like a whole new fine art community, but like then there's the old fine art community, and the old fine art community hasn't quite caught up yet. Like I know Christie's was selling like people and stuff like that, but the bigger parts of it, the large majority hasn't caught up yet. But the communities are pretty much the same, like like you invest in a Tesla stock because you believe in Elon Musk, like you don't, like obviously Tesla's a great car company, but if Elon Musk wasn't the poster boy for the company, it would probably have totally different effects on the stock price and how successful the company actually is. And so I think one of the having that confidence of being a badass artist, but like you're not, when you first start, like you're going to suck, period. Like that's Like even if you start and your artwork is great, your networking abilities might be bad. Like that, like I don't know any artist that has actually, that's false. There's only one artist that I know that since they've been involved in the community has been fucking legendary, and that's Ferocious. But that was like a huge anomaly. Like I've never seen Ferocious drop something that wasn't badass. So that's a that's a whole thing. But like most people in general, like you're not going to be, you know, the greatest at first. You have to show up, you have to be present, you have to be involved in the conversations, you have to talk to collectors, to artists, and just be genuine, you know, like and don't be mean. That's probably one of the biggest things. Like, because when you actually find success, it is really easy to want to get on social media and be like talk shit, you know, like it's because then you see other people, you know, that may have like, oh yeah, this is a good perspective to have. So if you were involved in a Twitter community, right, or you have a lot of people from high school that like still follow you or whatever, and then you actually find success online in the digital art world, and say you want to tweet out something that's really negative, and you're talking shit to the 10 people from your high school that doubted you, right? So your tweet that you sent out is just directed toward those 10 people. You know, the other 1,000 or hundreds of people that see the tweet are also going to take it personally, and so it's very, it's better to just be a nice person on social media, just period. But now, like also say, be genuine. So if you see something that you have an issue with call it out. Like one of the things that I've been kind of annoyed by recently is there was a larger art community that kind of built around Downtown 500, so that encompasses hundreds of artists now, and those artists that aren't selling NFTs or that aren't making a lot of money have been like brutally judging and trying to cancel the artists that are doing it, and that's something that I've taken an issue with, because it's like just because you see. So for instance, I only do unique stuff. I've never sold a print, or correction, I have sold prints before, but I drew on the back of them and I only sold like 10. So they were still all unique. But whenever I saw these other artists selling prints, and like, keep in mind, I've had a job this whole time. I've never been a full-time artist. Like I've had a job, or I feel like a full-time artist, because if I'm not at work, I'm on the clock doing this stuff. And even when I'm at work, I'm doing this stuff. But for years, I had to watch these artists like sell prints and shirts and clothes and make a lot of money, just because I didn't want to be a part of those communities. I only wanted unique stuff, and that's, you know, I really had to take a loss and wonder, you know, am I doing this right? Like, is this for real? Do I really believe that I should only do unique stuff? Blah blah blah, and that really took a toll on my mental health for like 2 years, you know. But you know, I stayed true to it, and so I've never sold anything that isn't unique. And that's one of the big things I think that separates me from a lot of my peers, because I wasn't necessarily interested in the easy money from selling cheaper versions of something I painted. I was in it for the value factor. So I knew if, like, I wanted to be able to guarantee all of my collectors, like, hey, like, if you buy this, like, not only have I, you know, gotten all these accolades and accomplishments that make this valuable. Like, this is the only one ever, you know. I'm not saying to not do prints. Like, by all means do prints. It's a really good thing in the fine art world, especially if you do limited editions and you number them or sign them. I think they're really interesting. I actually had a conversation with Pac about this, but I'll go back to that in a second. The biggest thing is, you know, I had to watch these other artists succeed, and it sucked. It was terrible, you know. Like, I might have sold, you know, 2 or 3 paintings in 2019. Now those 2 or 3 paintings I sold, probably, you know, I probably made like $3,000 or $4,000 from those paintings, which is a fuck ton of money for 3 pieces of artwork. But like, that's one of those things. It's like, if you don't want to be in the community, you don't need to hate on the people that are in it. Like, that's just ridiculous. And then there was like this whole cancel culture movement to like cancel NFTs because they're like bad for the environment. That weirded me out, because I was like, NFTs, like, we have to use more electricity to mine crypto. And if you use more of something, all that does is that, I mean, yes, it does increase consumption, but more importantly, it drives innovation. So a lot of people that mine crypto are looking into you know, solar energy, purely because they don't want their fucking utility bill to be, you know, $70 more every month or $100 more every month. So they're looking at maximizing the cost by putting solar panels on their house. Well, what does that do for the environment? That greatly, you know, increases it. But if you really want to get technical, they use batteries, and batteries have to be mined, or lithium has to be mined. So there's no like technical way to get around it. But point being said, like, don't hate on people just because they're being successful. Like, that should be like, okay, well, if you don't want to do, which I think if you make paintings, period, you need to be making NFTs for them. Just like if you make paintings, period, you need to be making certificates of authenticity for them. Like you should be documenting that is an original work by you, because no one else is going to, you know, like they might in 10 years, but they're not going to if you haven't already. And so treat yourself like a professional, treat yourself like you're the greatest artist in the world already. You know, really go home with that in mind. Now back to the conversation I was having with Pac, or actually, do you want to say anything based on what I just said?
I mean, I think that, you know, everything that you've explained, having the innovation is really important. And so finding, you know, with anything, there will be trade-offs, which is absolutely the case, but trying to make the best decisions given your options, you know. Yeah. That's important. So understanding that in life, there will always be a trade-off. I think that kind of covers.
I mean, energy can't be created or destroyed. That's kind of my premise on it. But anyways, so the conversation I had with Pac was talking about, and this was like public on Twitter. I don't actually know Pac either. But yeah, so he was talking about like what is unique, you know, and this is something that I've felt, for lack of a better word, personal. I wasn't offended or anything, but this was something that I was really involved with in my own art, was the uniqueness of it. And his argument was that out of 100 editions, they're all unique because they're all uniquely stored and signed on the blockchain. And when he said that, I was kind of like, you know, I felt like he was like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. Like, okay, you're right. But then I was at Walmart getting something, and I thought of something, and I was like, oh shit, like, no, actually, I completely disagree with that. But by then it was kind of way too late to have that conversation. But what I thought about was this. So if you sell, and another thing, if you sell prints, so I'll digress back into the other thing. So if you sell prints, so if you have a painting that's $1,000 and you want to sell prints of it, if you want to sell 10 of them, sell 10 of them for $100. So like divide the amount of the painting in prints. That would be good advice if you want to get into prints. But yeah, so with prints, you sell 100 prints. Each print has its own piece of paper, and if you sign it, then you've signed each of them. But they're still significantly less valuable than the painting itself. So even though PAC was like, hey, these are all unique because they all have their unique token, I feel like that was a comparison of saying prints are unique because prints all have their own pieces of paper. And so that's something that I really took home, and with that I created my Faces series. So my Faces series is, I just have a PNG face file on my phone. If you don't know what face is, this is face. And so this actually here is this is something I created. This was my old website at one point, so that's why it still exists. But if you go to that and you click that, it actually kind of gives a short history of face. But yeah, so face is something that I created 2017-ish. And it actually became a graffiti tag. I don't really, did I write that in here? I don't think I wrote that, because whatever you say can and will be used against you. So that's a thing. But yeah, so I'd used that for a little while, and this actually was birthed from my first job as a technician. So there's, if y'all know anything about the kitchen products by OXO, I worked at a warehouse with those products, and I just started drawing the little mouth on them, and that's pretty much how I birthed Face, and that's been my artist signature. After the first time I got arrested for graffiti was because I was a complete dumbass, and I put I tagged it with like my Instagram name, so that was a whole thing.
Made it easy to find.
Yeah. So I was being very stupid. But then Face kind of works out for me, because there was, you can't I guess you could image search it, but like I don't know if they're gonna actually care that hard, because the majority of the places I graffitied were in a place that doesn't seem to care about what happens there for the most part. So
with this too, I think being more of a logo or an icon, it's, even though it represents you, it can't necessarily be tagged to you.
Yeah, it's that's one thing I learned from my friend Peter's brand, because they have stuff like all over the country, because they were doing campaigns and things. So that was an interesting take. I just hope they don't have any pictures of me doing it. But yeah, so face is something I was doing, and then I led that to this. So my conversation with PAC led me to creating Faces, which one of these is glitched. So this one is glitched. I don't know who's bought it, but it's been purchasing for like a day and a half now. So I don't really know what to do about that. So if you bought this and you see this video, I have no idea what's going on.
It probably submit your transaction with higher gas.
I don't know.
Generally, that's what happens, is like the transaction is just being really slow. So if the purchaser submits it with higher gas, it should bump it up.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so I started these face series, and there's going to be 1,000 of them, so it's going to go to Face 999. Typically, I was releasing them one by one. These I released both of them at the same time, because I did it like one day before I went into work, and Like I had like the previous like day, no, the previous 2 days I had sold like 2 a day, and so I just uploaded these guys. I haven't actually sold these guys because I haven't really brought a lot of attention to them yet, because I've been doing like my first foundation drop, and then I had another drop on super rare, and just been doing that. So I probably should get back on selling those guys. But anyways, I'm doing these kind of like as a tribute to like hash mask or punks, or there's like this other giraffe thing going on. But I wanted to do that, but I wanted to sell editions. I wanted to sell the same thing multiple times for like a lower price point. So they started off at 0.25 ETH, and then they've gone up 0.025 ETH every time I sell them or sell one. And so that was something I was doing to kind of get around the idea of prints or editions. I wanted to do something entirely unique, but that was, the first 20 were under 1 ETH, right? So when you get deeper into the community, you kind of learn the value of ETH, and it's totally different from the value of USD. And so that was one thing that I was really curious about. Like when you really into the really the other side of the community, I guess, you might be spending $100 like USD in gas, but it's really only like 0.08. So it's not like crazy, but it's it's a lot of money when you're looking at the USD side of it. But like eventually there's this like transcendence into understanding just the value of ETH without the value of USD attached to it. And so because of that, that's why I have these guys pretty affordable. I mean, they're at number 10. Sort of wish I would have like started off like at 0.025, because I'd probably be on like 100 by now. But also kind of glad I didn't, because these take a long time to make, because I'm hand making all of them on an iPad. But all of the faces are in the exact same location on each of them. So this is my contribution to the editions community. Instead of selling multiples, I'm selling multiple uniques, and I'm doing like nine that are themed. So I think the only one that I've released that was themed was 007. Yeah, this guy.
That is super awesome.
And so it's like my little James Bond one.
Very nice. And it's awesome, I think, that you've taken this kind of unique approach to editions. That way you're still kind of participating in those market mechanics, but doing it on your own terms.
Yeah, and awesome. That's one of the biggest things I've kind of try to also gear toward brand association. Is very Frank Sinatra my way type thing. So when I eventually get enough money to set up my own gallery booth at Art Basel, the little stick that hangs out that says what the gallery's name is, it's just going to be Anthony Sims, my way, period. And so
nice. Nice. And that actually, I think, is a good point for us to stop the interview for today. And I was like, I don't want to cut you off, but I don't know how we can follow that up with like the Anthony Sims my way, period. Like, that's awesome. And I know that we've kind of gone over the hour point, so I super appreciate you coming and sharing this. And like, I think we should do this again, because I love listening to your thoughts and your opinions on the space and looking at your art, and I am excited to see where things go from here. I know the community has had some really good feedback from what I've seen in Discord so far as well. Everybody's really loving your vibe and your art, and we would definitely like to have you come back again.
Yeah, I'd totally love to. This has been fun. I just got to talk. I appreciate that.
Yes, and it was amazing. Like that's one of the things that I know sometimes if people come and they're like, "Oh, I don't know what to share," but you have so many things that are valuable. So that is, I think, one of my favorite interviews that I've done so far. Thank you so much for this experience.
Yeah, thank you. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. So we will close out the stream for today. I know we've got some other things going on in the whale community later, so folks stick around for those. And Anthony, thank you very, very much for your time today and showing us, kind of about your journey in art in the crypto space. You've done amazing things so far, and we're definitely looking forward to where you keep going in the future. We will
Yes, ma'am.
have you back again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the day.
You as well.
Thank you.